Welcome to Guns, Guns, Gear, and Guns with Gary Gunderson. I'm Gary Gunderson. On the top of your screen we have a PPS-43C, currently for sale on the American market, which is a PPS-43 converted to a semi-auto closed bolt system and legally sold as a pistol since the barrel is under 16 inches and the folding stock is deactivated. I have just registered this particular firearm as a short-barreled rifle, which is why below this pistol we have a PPS-43 parts kit. I will be using a few parts from this kit to reactivate the stock, and I wanted to take the opportunity to look at these two side by side to examine the differences. As you can see from the parts kit that has been cut up due to stupid and silly laws, leave an F in the comments, the full auto-only open bolt original is a wonderful and simple design. This design was forged during combat in the Second World War in factories in Leningrad, modern-day St. Petersburg, while it was under siege by the Nazis. Prototypes left the factory and went to the front lines outside. It was so simple it took less than 3 hours of manufacturing time to make from start to finish. Also, just about any factory could make the majority of these parts, not needing specialized equipment. As an open bolt gun, it has a fixed firing pin on the bolt face. When you pull the bolt back, it is under spring pressure, and by releasing the sear when you pull the trigger, it releases the bolt, which moves forward, picks up a cartridge from the magazine, chambers, and fires with the fixed firing pin all in one motion. It is a simple blowback, so the pressure of the expanding gases kicks the bolt rearward, where this plunger on the spring guide acts as the ejector, removing the spent casing while the bolt continues back rearward over the sear, locking in place. If you have let go of the trigger, if you held it, it will continue to cycle until your magazine is empty. Here we have the bolts side by side. You can see the difference with the full auto on top and the semi-auto on the bottom. The full auto, as mentioned, has the fixed firing pin on the bolt face. Now these bolts are just a big honking mass of metal. This is to slow the rate of fire and balance with the spring tension so the gun does not beat itself to death, unlike some others from the period. I'm looking at you, G43. The originals fire around 600 rounds a minute, which is fast, but a lot slower compared to their older cousin, the PPS-41, which clocks in at 900 rounds a minute. The lower cyclic rate is one of the reasons they did not see a need to create drum magazines, like were the standard for the PPS-H. For new imports on the American market, this had to be converted to a closed bolt semi-auto firearm, which is why the 43C has a firing pin that is kept under spring pressure instead of fixed. If you had the fixed firing pin on this bolt, when you chambered around, it would fire. The rear of the bolts also differ, with the full auto having an engagement surface cut for the sear, and the back of the semi-auto version has the engagement surface for the hammer to interact with the firing pin, while the full auto just has a hole. Speaking of the trigger groups, here they are side by side. The original is simple. You just pull the trigger and the sear drops. Not much to it. For the semi-auto to function properly and to interact with the modified bolt, you can see this meant moving the trigger control group forward in the receiver. As you can see, it fires using a hammer, and since it is semi-auto, the trigger has to reset before it can fire another round. The safeties are in the same location on each version, though they function differently on the fire control groups due to the conversion. The folding stock is essentially a copy of the MP40, but it stores on top of the receiver instead of underneath it. It's held by spring tension, so you just pull it out until it locks into place. And then flip the butt pad so it is stable. To return it to the stored position, you simply depress the button and fold it back. The magazine well and magazine release remains unchanged for the semi-auto conversion, and is nice and ergonomic behind these protective wings and reminiscent of the AK. Even with these differences, Disassembly is the same. You need to press this button at the back of the receiver and pivot it open. Then you simply pull the bolt back slightly and lift out, and the spring comes with it. And the spring guide simply fits into that hole in the bolt. One note on the magazines: unlike most surplus AK magazines or even Sturmgewehr magazines, these have a flat slab side and no reinforcement ribs. I bring this up particularly because this magazine functioned fine, but then I damaged somehow in transit, which has stopped the operation of the follower all the way through the magazine, causing it to stick. So if you do get a PPS, pay attention to your magazines, both in purchasing them and in handling them. They may not be as durable as other items you are used to. I'm going to try to beat this bend out of it to save it, but we shall see if I'm successful. Other than that, these magazines are double stack, double feed, and are known to be very reliable. That's all I had for today. Please let me know if you liked the video by giving it a thumbs up or in the comments below. I plan on trying to make this stock reactivation into a video, as long as it goes well and isn't too embarrassing, so look for that in the future. Please share the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.